Oh shit. Boom sent stocks sharply lower. The S&P 500 led the retreat, sinking from the one-month high reached yesterday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average tumbled 445. The S&P 500 dropped 63. The Nasdaq Composite lost 123. The Federal Reserve says the economy slammed on the brakes in recent weeks as the coronavirus heightened its grip. The latest lead book found sharp declines in demand and widespread job cuts. More cuts on the way. With oil at an 18-year low, the Trump administration is considering paying oil producers not to pump. The Energy Department reportedly has drafted a plan to compensate companies for sitting on up to 365 million barrels of crude. Apple is taking the wraps off its first low-cost smartphone in 4 years. The $400 iPhone SE uses an older design and lacks some features of newer models. Bloomberg Money Watch at 26 and 56 minutes every hour. I'm Larry Kosky for 1010 News Time 928.
The CBS All Access original series, The Good Fight, is now streaming.
A better idea is to have CDW deploy new devices powered by 8th generation Intel Core V Pro processors.
Why can't you talk faster?
For productivity solutions, you need Intel and IT orchestration by CDW. Find out more at cdw.com.
Larry, I've changed.
The Good Fight, new season now streaming, only on CBS All Access.
I was 16, a budding athlete. Father Mike took notice. He said, let's start a youth group. Handed me a beer, complimented my physique.
That's taking out the left and center lanes till tomorrow morning. No major issues getting across the East River at the Thrasneck and Whitestone bridges. Over in New Jersey, we've got some emergency repairs on the turnpike southbound at interchange 14 and the truck lanes. All lanes are currently blocked. That's from an earlier accident. They're working on the guardrails there. You have to get over to the car lanes. No major issues heading inbound across the Hudson River at the Georgia, Lincoln, and Holland. Alternate side is suspended till April 28th. Meter rules remain in effect. In sports, one member of the Los Angeles Chargers has tested positive for COVID-19. 2 others in the organization are showing symptoms. Your Bloomberg 11:30 day weather forecast. Mostly clear skies overnight. Temperatures dip in the high 30s. Mostly sunny skies throughout the afternoon tomorrow. Close to 50 degrees for the high. Chance for showers late on Friday afternoon. Otherwise cloudy back in the low 50s. And rain likely on Saturday morning with a high of 50 degrees. This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. A girl in Kenya dreams of becoming a doctor. An elder in Guatemala dreams of being part of a community. Reach out, change their world. It will change your own. Unbound.org. With the best ride in and out of the city, I'm Brandy Scott on Bloomberg 1130.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130. To Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1. To Boston. Bloomberg 106.1. To San Francisco. Bloomberg 960. To the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe. The Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
It is 9:30 a.m. in Hong Kong and here in Singapore. I'm Juliette Solly.
And I'm Brian Curtis. Hong Kong and China markets opening up here as we speak and trading down this morning. Other markets in the region down about 1 to 2%. Details with Doug Krisner coming up shortly. But for now, some of the top stories.
Well, there was more bad news from the U.S. big banks. Goldman Sachs' investment portfolio taking a hit from the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, Bank of America joined competitors JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo in setting aside billions of dollars for loan losses. Citigroup also taking similar steps. David George is senior research analyst at Robert Baird, and he says banks are building up their reserves while bracing for a severe recession.
Banks are basically taking significant provisions based on economic data rather than underlying credit data. So most of these banks are really getting a lot of these credit issues potentially in front of them, so which sets up in 2021 and beyond to have very, very small provision expenses going forward, but nonetheless some big numbers so far this quarter.
David George there at Robert Baird. The Trump administration, meantime, is considering paying U.S. oil producers to leave crude in the ground. This would help alleviate a glut that has caused prices to plummet and has pushed some drillers into bankruptcy. We're told the draft plan would compensate companies for sitting on as much as 365 million barrels worth of oil reserves. This will be done by effectively making untapped crude part of the U.S. government's emergency stockpile.
Well, the U.S. government will report on weekly jobless claims. Thursday morning, local time filings will continue to run high for a fourth consecutive week, and we have a preview from Bloomberg's Michael McKee.
If the consensus forecast is realized, that would push the four-week total above 22 million, roughly 1 in 8 of the workforce. That would essentially wipe out all the job gains since the last recession. Given claims are expected to stay in the millions for several more weeks, unemployment above 15%, even close to 20% is possible for April. That would be the highest since the Depression. Michael McKee, Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
China's auto plants are facing a new headache while recovering from shutdowns. That's as a potential shortage of parts appears. The virus is causing production disruption throughout Europe, North America, and Japan, which all supply crucial components to the automakers in China. Automakers at risk for disruption include global players such as Tesla and BMW, and local contenders such as Guangzhou Automobile and also Geely. China imported $36.7 billion of vehicle components last year.
Well, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing is set for its first earnings call since the virus pandemic was declared. We're seeing shares in Taipei down by about 0.9%. Analysts have two main questions for the earnings call. One is how are orders from Apple doing? And the other is what is the risk of the U.S. curbing TSMC sales to Huawei Technologies?
All right, let's get a look at the markets. We have also some new data, economic data. Let's get to Doug Krisner in New York. Doug.
Yeah, this is a little surprising if you look at Australian employment for the month of March, an increase of 5,900 jobs. The estimate was for negative 30,000. That's quite surprising. Nonetheless, we still have weakness in the Australian equity market, although we're off the worst levels of the early going here. The ASX 200 is down about 1.3%. And then, where China is concerned, March home prices, a gain of 0.13%, that is month over month. Faster, though, than the growth rate that we had in February. If you look at what's happening in the equity space on the mainland, Shanghai Composite is down about 0.4%, and in Hong Kong, Hang Seng is weaker by about 0.6% right now. Interesting that the dollar continues to push higher. We were up, if you look at the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index in New York, trading up about 0.9%. Right now, the gain is about 0.3%. The yen pulling in at 107.78. And the Nikkei 225 is down about 1.3% right now. So we continue to see this risk-off mood in markets. It was really triggered here in the States with some very bleak economic data on retail sales, on manufacturing, and then home builder sentiment. Bear in mind, Friday in China, that is tomorrow, we're going to be getting GDP, industrial production, retail sales, and the jobless report. Seoul was on holiday yesterday because of the parliamentary elections. Right now, the Kospi off only 0.3%. And if you look at what happened in the bond market during the New York session, we fell 10 basis points in yield on the 10-year. We're kind of holding steady here at 64 basis points. And crude oil is recovering on signs that the federal government in the U.S. is considering an oil output cut by essentially paying some of the shale oil drillers not to produce. WTI is at 20.50 right now. We're up 3% in the electronic session. I'm Doug Krisner in New York. Juliet.
Thank you, Doug. Well, President Trump is to advance those talks on reopening the U.S. economy. With that and other global news, let's get to Mark Mills in the Bloomberg Newsroom. Mark.
Juliet, President Trump says data indicates the U.S. is, quote, past the peak of the COVID-19 epidemic.